Hello, and welcome to Amplifying the Voices of African Researchers, a podcast series by the Climate and Development Knowledge Network Africa, where we spotlight emerging science evidence, highlight local knowledge, and amplify African-led research shaping climate action across the continent. This early career fellowship is supported by the International Development Research Center and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Netherlands. Thanks for making our podcast part of your routine. I'm your host, Herein, and in each episode, we sit down with experts, especially early career researchers, who are shaping Africa's climate future through groundbreaking and policy-relevant research. Welcome to today's episode where we learn about the role of smart agriculture in local women's climate adaptation in Lhasa in Ethiopia, and we are joined by our researcher today, Abdrohman, who is going to let us know what the role of smart agriculture is in climate adaptation. Welcome, Ibrahim, and how was the day? How are you feeling today?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Thank you for having me here in the CDKN podcast. So thank you for having me. I'm doing well.
Great. It's good to know that you are in good spirits. Now, tell us just a little bit about yourself and what you love to study.
I'm Abdrohman Ebrahim. I'm a PhD candidate at University of Cape Town. I'm a researcher in climate change adaptation. So that I've been joining the CDKN Early Career Fellowship. So I'm here with you to make such a beautiful podcast.
Thank you so much for honoring our invite, and we cannot wait to hear what you have to share with us to improve climate adaptation in Africa. So, now, could you tell us more about your research?
Since I did my master's degree in environmental and natural resource economics in Ethiopia, basically I'm an Ethiopian and studied my bachelor's and master's degree in Ethiopia. So I was mostly interested on climate change adaptation when I saw that a government had an initiative in 2010 on watershed development to improve the soil and water conservation in Ethiopia. So that I was inspired how people are investing their time after the agricultural season or after the harvesting season in Ethiopia. Farmers are engaged in a certain mobilization of campaign for soil and water conservation, especially under watershed. So at the time, I was like inspired by the efforts of the people investing their time on protecting their soil and water under watershed development guideline. So that was the departure for me to study about climate change adaptation and how climate adaptation has been impacting people in developing countries, especially in our African continent. So that I had started my climate change adaptation journey when I joined my master's degree in environmental and natural resource economics.
Great. Now, let's dive into your research. What are the objectives? What was the research area? Tell us how the research went.
Yeah, since that time, my research has been morely around climate change adaptation. So today I brought you a certain research which has been funded by the South
Uh-huh.
North under the ARA funded mini grant program, which we implemented with an implementing partner in northern Ethiopia, in northeastern Ethiopia, which is Lhasa woreda in Ethiopia. So we mainly focus on the role of climate smart agriculture on women's local climate adaptation. So our objective was like to show how climate smart adaptation improves the woman's role or ability or capacity to adapt the changing climate here in Ethiopia at a grassroots level.
Great, great. So, as every researcher, we know that you have a guiding principle, a guiding theory. What theories did you utilize in your research?
We have been focusing on, as an environmental economist, we have been looking for how people are valuing the resources around them, and also people are more likely to adapt a certain actions based on their aim of maximizing their utilities, or based on their maximizing their return from their investment, so that we are able to know that how people are just adapting a certain strategy to adapt climate change from the various alternative which provides them the maximum or the optimal solutions, or the optimal reward to them, so that we are utilizing in a certain theory that people are interested on maximizing their utility or their profit, and also minimizing their costs, so that people are trying to choose the best possible alternatives based on their time, budget, and other constraints, so that people are optimizing their resources.
Right now, Abdurrahman, could you let us know what set of farming practices that these women are using to adapt to climate change? What are the specific climate smart agricultural practices?
In a specific context, people are just using in a certain way, depending on their characteristics, depending on the type of plot they own, depending on the resources that they have, especially labor, capital, and at the same time the characteristics of the plot. So that there are various climate smart agricultural tools, especially using a green compost, conservation agriculture, soil and water conservation, implementing a soil water conservation, including a soil structure and other various terracing and other various climate smart tools on plots, and at the same time changing their behaviors and shifting other agricultural practices due to the changing climate, as well as they try to adapt other type of variety of seeds that are drought resistance, and at the same time people are trying to use an improved quality of seeds, and also at the same time fertilizer, and also they have been trying to use compost and organic fertilizers to make sure that the soil's fertility increased at their plot level.
And does this come easy for these women? Is it easy? What are the outlining challenges?
Surprisingly, we have been the in our research, there are gaps in just focusing on women. Most researchers are focusing or looking household at the same entity, or a collective entity on deciding climate change adaptation. So our focus mainly on women, and also providing them a certain support, especially some vegetables, and also climate smart supporting tools which could be implemented around their homestead, so that women are be able to use them, which is nearby their homestead, because women are the most disproportionately affected by climate change, because they are been investing their time on domestic resource production, like food production, fetching water, and wood firewood collection, so that any kind of change, especially drought, might affect or might increase the likelihood of them to invest more time on these activities plus agricultural time, so that our effort is to understand how they have been affected over time, and also how their perceptions towards the changing climate. Yes, they perceive the climate is changing over time, so that we are trying to support them that these activities might be after a 3 year, so supporting them in a certain resource across the community would help them, that they would have a certain kind of opportunities, and also availability of some kind of fruit after a certain period of time, then that they have been improving their food security at household level. So that the barriers are women are really aware in the fact that climate is changing over time, but they don't have enough resources to implement certain practices, and also they do have a limited information about what is going to happen after a certain period or after a certain month, so that early warning system, at the same time a certain kind of resources which could be implemented around their home state, which could be easily accessible by the women, because they have been investing their time on domestic food production beyond agricultural activities or crop production outside home, so that they are be able to invest their time in a certain food production activities around home, so that this resource limitation and also limited access to information and extension services targeting them, or gender mainstreamed extension services are absent, so that these factors hindering them to invest their time on easily climate adaptation actions here in Ethiopia.
Great. Obviously, as the women are having challenges, I believe that you also have your own challenges as a researcher. What are the challenges, and how did you also overcome these challenges as a researcher?
Yeah, there are two challenges, starting from the things like early career researchers or African researchers lack funding to invest their time on research activities or providing solutions or solutions at grassroots level. So that there are a lot of things to be done in and at the grassroots level here in Africa, but there are limited resources, so funding is the biggest challenge here to practice. Fortunately, we have a limited resources from ARA, Adaptive Research Alliance, from SSA,
Mm.
so that we have been trying to understand how women's adaptation to climate change at a grassroots level. Beyond that, when we are implementing a certain research project at a grassroots, there are various challenges. We have been some security challenges across in certain areas over a period of data collections. Fortunately, we have been working with grassroots stakeholders, so we have been navigating through that challenges, and we are able to collect data because we know all the informations, what's going to happen on the, so that grassroots collaborations, connections, and working together with them is important. At the same time, we have some challenges on some of the capacity building, especially related to resource. So we need to have capacitate local stakeholders to collect data and how to collect data. So we provided trainings with the limited resources that we have, despite it was not enough, but these are the challenges regarding our data collection.
Great. So did you find out anything interesting? Walk us through some of the key takeaways or insights from your work.
So there are three takeaway messages that we have here in our research. The first one is women aware of the fact that climate is changing, and also women are investing a certain autonomous adaptation techniques on their plots, but they are being constrained by resource. So resource constraint, women, especially women farmers, are facing resource constraint, so that they need to have enough resources and information at the grassroots level. Second one is like climate smart agriculture is a tool forward to improve local climate adaptations. And the third one is like understanding climate change adaptation needs a gender disaggregated data. So we need to have a good data collection mechanism, that we need to have a good understanding of climate change adaptation at the grassroots level. Then third one is vulnerability of local grassroots adaptations have been different across various income groups and also various household structure, so that we need to have a good look into how is going to happen and what is the role of women in climate change adaptation should be documented and should be highlighted.
Great. Now let's zoom out. What would these findings mean for policy, communities, or even climate solutions as a whole?
Well, there are various things for people who would like to provide for policymakers. Gender mainstreaming intervention in Ethiopia is important. So we need to have special attention to women and female-headed households, so that the gender transformative CAA is important, and also communities can benefit from strengthened activities of women. And at the same time, we need to provide building women's climate resilience intervention and small-scale irrigation, providing food seedlings can enhance women adaptive capacity. Investing in women access to productive could significantly increase farm yield and overall output. So that a policy has to be gender mainstream and gender transformative. And also we need to have an inclusive climate adaptation policies which incorporates female headed households at the same time women targeted policies to strengthen climate adaptation policies in this country.
How do we actually have this gender mainstream policy? How do we do that if policymakers are to listen to what you are saying and they would want to find practical ways of making a gender mainstream? Do you have any tips or practical steps that they could adopt?
I think the first step is like data has to be generated in a way that it has to be segregated on gender based, so that how the structure of the community has to be clearly understood, and at the same time what are the mechanisms in which climate change affects those group of individuals. So it's not only gender, it's but also across age and across different income groups, so that climate change could have an impact on different communities differently. Like children might be affected differently. Women's could be affected by climate change differently than men households. So that if we understood that women are disproportionately affected, and also the role of women in a certain community is clearly identified, then we could have a certain policy which actually enhances the adaptive capacity of women, especially water, supplying electricity to reduce their time spending on other spending times and collecting water. So providing electricity might be a good opportunity for enhancing women climate change adaptation. At the same time, providing rural electrification as in this context is important. This could be in a way that it reduces the time. It reduces the time to spend in collecting firewood. At the same time, providing water and nearby, also reducing the time to spend on collecting water far away, so that women will be benefited from a certain intervention at a rural community. So that gender mainstreaming requires that we need to have a good data. At the same time, we need to have a policy which could likely benefit people differently.
Great. Ibrahim, you are exposed to vulnerability in Lhasa. Rather, do you have any hope as you reflect on your journey in climate change adaptation, climate smart agriculture, and the vulnerabilities of these women? What gives you hope in your work?
I think I hope that the African continent need to have. I hope that, especially in investing in electricity, renewable energy, and also investing in certain agricultural productivity, and improving the capacity of the countries in climate change adaptations would provide a good direction toward this improving the overall society across the continent. I hope that rural electrification would increase in Ethiopia. Then women time and spending in a certain activities which is a burden for them would reduce over time. At the same time, if our research activities from other collaborators, especially improved seeds varieties and also producing fertilizers in Africa. So I have heard that some initiatives across the country, across African countries, especially Nigeria,
Yeah.
Bariko Dangote, and some Moroccan firms. At the same time, we are also in Ethiopia trying to produce our fertilizers in a certain country. I think Dangote has invested so that investing in fertilizer at the same time improved seeds, especially from our research and development activities, if we are investing on them as a continent, would improve our food security at the same time climate resilience. So that we have to invest our time on research and development in seed, fertilizer, and also cascading green fertilizer, and at the same time compost and climate smart agriculture could be easily scaled up at community level.
Thank you very much, Abdurrahman. What is next for your research? How long have you been working in this community, and how can others support or learn from your work?
Actually, it was a mini research that we have conducted at that specific locations. So if we have sorry if we have a good funding at the same time collaboration across the African continent and as across other researchers, we could build a good randomized control trial to provide a certain kind of climate smart agricultural tools with a good early warning system in the community to evaluate how effective it is, especially providing for women, so that household food security will be improved and also household resilience capacity could be enhanced, so that the way forward would be collaborations, networking, at the same time investing our time on providing solutions, understanding the problem of our grassroots communities, and the same and providing solutions to them.
Thank you so much, Abdurrahman, for sharing your work with us today. It's inspiring to see how African led research is driving change where it's needed the most. If you'd like to learn more about this research or connect with Ibrahim, visit the CDKN.org website. And to learn more about this fellowship and explore more stories, visit the same CDKN website, because you have been listening to Amplifying Voices of African Researchers, brought to you by CDKN Africa. Thank you so much. This podcast is part of the CDKN Africa Fellowship, working to elevate African voices in climate science, policy, and practice. Until next time, think locally led research, publish widely, and let Africa's researchers' voice echo in every local and global climate conversation.